Okay, welcome internet. I forgot to turn the stream back on. It started working again. Um, what I'm working on right now is the man in the middle HTTP proxy that I utilize for site development. Um, it's working for a lot of things, but not with security tooling. Now, in a previous video, I talked about how I have another man in the middle proxy that I utilize for security testing. Well, that utilizes an older version of the proxy software. I adapted it and updated it significantly in the past. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking those updates and I'm going to re-implement the fuzzing capability of the server, the proxy server. So essentially what I want to do is I want to be intercepting requests, legitimate requests that are going to the iratefun staging server. And based upon the data that is intercepted, I want to plug in bad data. I want to try to hammer the server with bad data in a variety of different intelligible ways to try to cause faults in the server. I want to break the server. That way I can unearth potential security issues. I can unearth potential um, software bugs, that kind of thing. You can do an audit by hand, and I've done several audits by hand of a software repository or a code base and miss so much. You can miss so many things if you do it by hand that a fuzzer would help you find much easier. So I have fuzzers written. I've written many fuzzers in the past. Since the site utilizes JSON data, it's going to be easy because I have methods that automatically, oh, damn it, just kicked something, that automatically fuzz JSON objects. So this shouldn't be too hard. The issue is I haven't plugged in some of the man in the middle request interceptors, so I'm going to be doing that right now. Oh, and I didn't start the music. Let me start the music. Ooh, Final Fantasy 3. Final Fantasy 6 Japan. This is a good game. This is the intro music, if I remember correctly. Okay, so what we need to do here is intercept the request data being sent. So that shouldn't be too much of an issue. Now, I'm not going to have the terminal visible here. I have the terminal on a different screen, and that's because I'm going to be viewing requests that come directly out of the browser. That could include all variety of information, sensitive IDs and things like that. Um, when relevant data is piped out to the terminal, I'll just cut and paste it so you can look at it with me. So it should be easy. Okay, so what else do we have? I don't know. We have, let's do this. We have a web content injection plugin for this security or this man in the middle proxy. And I have activation filters. The way this thing works is it intercepts specific endpoints that are making their way through the proxy. And it allows me to, how do I explain it? Create a kind of, it's like a fake web server. So if a request goes through to an endpoint that I have created an activator on, which is just it's just a match function. or a regular expression, whatever. It'll let me. Oh, it's hard to explain. It'll let me respond with HTML. So it's not actually a web server. It's just intercepting web server requests and responding with correct content. So HTML, JavaScript, CSS, stuff like that. It's really cool. I really, really, really like this thing. It's one of my favorite tools that I've written. The proxy software itself is the Node man-in-the-middle proxy. It's written by, hold on, Joe Ferner is the GitHub account. And it's really, really, really cool software. It lets you, I don't know if you've ever used security tools before, but one of the premier software security tools out there for web auditing is a thing called Burp Proxy. And honestly, this project from Joe Ferner, the Node HTTP man-in-the-middle proxy, is just way better. It's way better than Burp Proxy if you know what you're doing. Because once you have it set up, you can custom tailor it without having to pay $500 and learn Java. I gotta stop saying I say too much. That's a common problem people have. What's next? Okay, so you can see here. Damn it, I did it again. I said again. Okay, you can see here that we have an activation filter within the plugin on request start. Now this will activate on every single request start. We also have one for on request data send. We're able to, based on what we're looking at, determine whether or not we should be doing something with the data. We can overwrite the data being sent. We can modify the headers of data being sent, which would be done up here. We can absorb it and store the requests so that we can use them, in this particular case, for fuzzing. And we're going to be implementing these methods. That's the goal for right now. So let's go ahead and work on this. Now, I've worked on this previously. I've got all the response stuff worked out. And I more or less copied the response code. You can even see here, it's supposed to be request. I copied the code that I used for that, and I changed the server response to the request. So that should work if I'm understanding correctly. Proxy to server request. Yeah, that should work. All right, so I'm gonna give it a try. Let's see. So on request start, I'm gonna kill the server. I'm just gonna exit and dump out some of this. So I'm gonna dump out. Let's see, what is it? Request data. We're going to dump out the full URL, and we're going to dump out the request data. Let's see what we got here. Oh, don't need the terminal. I've got the terminal over here. Request data is not defined. Oh, request data is going to be in the parameters. Start it again. Oh, actually, request data should be on over here, because the request data isn't going to be present until this. So we'll get rid of this. And we'll get rid of this. Kind of like a snake. You know, I've watched a lot of videos on snakes in my 3 a.m. YouTube perusing, and I haven't ever heard a snake hiss. I've heard a cat hiss, but whatever. Brain parts. Let's go request data dot to string. And it defaults to UTF-8, so that should be fine. Okay, so it appears to be working in the console, but I'm just making a request to the staging server, but it's not posting any data, so the data is empty. So I'm just going to switch this to notice instead of exit. So this will just print out when things happen. Okay, it appears to work. Yeah, it's working great. So let's check the method here. Oh, if method dot to lowercase equals post. So for posting data, it should dump things out. And let's check if parsed URL. Let's dump the parsed URL. Because I'm going to want to modify this plugin since this is specifically only for this web server, the stage or the iratefun web server. I'm going to have some detection over here that will only activate on URLs from that domain. That way it won't be activating anywhere it shouldn't be. Okay, 1 second, I'm gonna run it again. This domain isn't accessible from the outside. This is just a host txt entry for localhost over here. So if you tried to access staging iratefun.com from the outside, it would do nothing. So, okay, so we got that, and then we got the post data. Now what we want to do is we want to record post data. So we're going to want to check if this is JSON parsable. Hey, this is the Dulcine theme music from Street Fighter 2. You know what? I actually think I have flags to determine whether or not it's parsable or not. Yeah, I do. I already have that. So it's going to be CTX request body data. Now we're going to use optional chaining here. We've already talked about that on previous videos as to why I'm not going to reiterate here. No make sense, bruh. No can. Okay, yes, it should be working. So this just guarantees that the request body data is JSON parsable, and I think I also parse it out if possible. Yeah, I do. Okay, so what I'm going to want to do now is I'm going to want to store the requests in memory. I could have them expire after a while, or I could just clear them out by hand. But the reason I want the requests to be stored in memory and not just fuzz them right here is because I want to be selective about what I choose to fuzz and how. Since I know how the backend works, personally, I don't have to worry. Like, if you're doing this for a security audit, you would have to worry about, well, does the backend respond in this particular way that's going to make the data stale or unusable? Since I personally know, because I have written it myself, how the backend is going to behave, it makes sense to store the data so that I can fuzz it appropriately in the future. I don't want to commit it to the database because that would be just bloat, endless bloat. I want it stored in memory. And the reason is I'm going to have a little web page kind of I described earlier. It's like a I'm not gonna explain it again. It's a fake web page, but it'll pull those out of memory and then it'll display them on the web page, and I'll have a little button where I can click to fuzz this data. Yeah, that's the smart plan. So we'll go back up to the and then we'll go iratefun fuzzing. Let's do that. This proxy is specific for this application. It doesn't have to be. I could just write a generic one, but I think it's important for this project to have its own because I get nervous having things out on the internet, especially considering that as a career and like I've worked in security for quite a long time. It's gonna get hammered by people, especially if people are angry about whatever the hell's on the website. And I can't imagine any website with one moderator, which is me, being able to do a great job of keeping that in check. So I'm gonna have to. I just moved down the chair. I'm gonna have to really ensure that things are as locked as possible to reduce my workload. This, alright. On post request blog. Or let's just do this dot post request log equals. Make it an object, and the reason we'll make it an object is because I can use URLs as keys into the object. That has its own problems, but should I make it a map? Because you can use just about anything as a map key. There are certain restricted characters in object keys. This is this is one of those my better judgment things. Yeah, I'm gonna use a map. Great. Then I can just use get and set on it. Oh, let's go back down. So if the request log is empty, we're going to have to set it. And we'll just set it to an empty array, and then we'll get it. So now every time we run a get over here on the full URL, we're going to pull the same array. We're not going to have to worry about anything. Okay, so the request log is going to be push request data So the request data is going to be a buffer, and then we're going to parse context data. Okay, so now the request log is available. And I'm just gonna, every time I make a request, I'm just going to dump this out. Yeah, an important part of the iratefun website, one of my design considerations was that no data gets passed via get parameters, via HTTP get parameters. None. There are query string parameters, get parameters, used on the website, but they're not actually processed by the server. They're processed by the JavaScript instead. And they're utilized for imitating state. So they never actually hit the server in any meaningful way. I did that specifically because, well, it makes fuzzing incredibly easy. Because you don't have to have an HTTP get fuzzer. You only have to have a post data fuzzer. You can immediately discard any data that isn't JSON parsable. You can immediately discard any query parameters. You can immediately discard anything that doesn't match an object format. And when you're fuzzing, you can just use a JSON fuzzer to fuzz the data inputs. And these are the kinds of design considerations you should make when you're developing your applications. Anything you can do to reduce the burden that you're placing on yourself. What's the name of that number? Hold on. 1 second. I think it's a Dunbar number. Yeah, the Dunbar number, is the number of stable relationships people are cognitively able to maintain at once. And the proposed number is 150. So a single person can maintain a maximum of 150 stable relationships in their lives. Now, there's a whole lot more than 150 functions and 150 methods and 150 endpoints and 150 things. If you can reduce the number of things, you can work within the limitations of your own humanity. If you overly complexify things, you wind up in this spiral of insanity where you're unable to manage things. I've seen people who could manage things in amazing ways, technical people, but I am a mere mortal. Okay, hold on. Request log dot push. Oh, get. Okay, so we set, and we get. Code error. Whoopsie doopsie. Okay. Looks like it's working. Alright, so what I don't need to do is store this, because the context parse data has everything. And I don't think I need to push the object even, because it's already an object. I think it would be smarter just to store that. Okay, so I shouldn't use the full URL. I should use the full URL plus the data hashed, because that will make it exclusionary. No, I gotta... Hmm. Okay, so here's the idea. So we're gonna turn this into an object instead. We're not gonna utilize push. If we use an object, we can do something interesting. We can do this. Actually, we can... Because what I don't want is non-unique requests to start piling up. If it's a unique request, I want it to be just simply a one and done. Yeah. Okay, hold on, let me check something over here. Hold on 1 second. Just checking things. Hmm. Okay, sorry about that. So, oops, mouse stay falling off the thing. I have a mouse pad attached to my armchair, but it's like $30 worth of Chinese plastic and Velcro straps, so it's kind of leaning to one side. So the request log now is empty. Request log JSON data SHA1 equals true. We don't have to add the URL to this because the map itself, the key for the map, is using the full URL. If we want to dump things out, like if we want to get all of the URLs that have been accessed, we can just iterate the map. Okay, equals. Okay. Let's not use optional chaining for this. Let's do that. Okay. Yeah, appears to be working. I'll just bring this over here. So this is what it looks like, the request log. You can see it has the hash there, and it has some data here. And then you can see the as string data. And this will just pile up for every single URL matching the post data, but it will never add it twice. That's important. Okay. Now what I'm not going to be doing is I'm not going to be modifying it here. I won't be fuzzing it here. I'll only be collecting the requests here. And the reason that I don't want to be fuzzing it inline right now is because it'll disrupt the browser. While I'm browsing around, I don't want the site to start malfunctioning because of what I'm doing. I want the site to start malfunctioning because of what a background fuzzer is doing. So I'm going to need to create an endpoint. Internal post receiver, internal post receiver, I need internal get receiver. Okay, we'll use this one. We have a Reddit link search. Update that comment. Okay, so we're gonna load security tools template. So now, where did I put the templates? Okay, static content, UI pages, HTML templates. It's new file, security tools.tmpl.html. Oh, do I already have it? Yeah. Oh, I copied it from another. Okay, so security tools. And then let's not load anything. So it should just dump out moo. Moo. Okay, so it works. So if I go to this URL with security tools, it'll just dump out the template. Very, very cool. So now I just add a temp or a post receiver, and I'll have this code here make a post request to get all of the requests. So if I add a couple post receivers, I can just have a little button where I click a button and it sends a post request to the proxy itself, and that will initiate fuzzing. That way I can control the fuzzing parameters and that kind of thing. My nose is itchy. Yeah. I've already stated twice, but this is not an actual web server. This is... oh, where'd it go? This. So when the proxy sees a URL matching this, it automatically responds back with this. It's forging the response. It's not behaving as a web server itself. Alright, so I need to make a UI page now. I don't like this synth. I'm gonna change the song. I don't normally listen to this type of music, but I think this can work for the stream, or for streaming in general. They're just MIDIs, if you're wondering. A lot of people like chiptunes, and I do too. But these are... what are they? I guess synthesized? Okay. I had to cough there. I had to turn off the microphone. Alright, so security tools UI page.js. Let me check a different security tools. Let's see, comment search. The reason I'm doing this is I have some utilities I've already developed that'll allow me to do post requests and stuff. Oh, wrong button. Again, this is one of the best parts about JavaScript. Like, I have custom utils here. This is basically the same package as the custom utils utilized in the server context, but this will be running in the browser instead. I didn't have to rewrite an entire utilities package. I could just utilize what I use on the back end and remove the back end only components. Most of them I didn't even have to remove. I could just dumbify them. Alright, so now got to, let's close that. Security tools UI page. It's alert 1. So as soon as we go to the page, it should pop up an alert. Well, let's go back over here and let's see if it works. Oh. Gotta disable the cache. Did I save it? Oh, I didn't uncomment it. Duh. Alright, let me restart it. There we go. Alright. For browser components, I do use modules and imports and stuff. I use them on the server side too, but not so much. I use require a lot more than import. You can use both. I also don't use TypeScript. That's another thing I don't use. I know TypeScript pretty well. Oh, reasonably well. This is heresy to most people, but I don't like it. I understand the class of bugs that they that it removes. I understand that type safety is important. I think those things are great, but I'm not going to add a compile step and an entire second layer of transpiling. I'm just not going to do it. It seems so stupid to me just to alleviate certain classifications of bugs. It doesn't seem safer, not if you know what you're doing. And adding that much extra bloat, it just seems like a horrifying prospect. I understand that it's the soup of the day, but I don't really get on board with soup of the day mentality. To me, if something is solid, if it is adopted, if it has finance behind it, those must be universal. It can't be there are pockets or even large pockets of development studios and developers using the tool. It has to be universal. It has to be universally supported in order for me to want to jump on board with it. Because I've seen so many things in the past just kind of flounder, and I think TypeScript is one of those, especially because of the ECMAScript proposal for type hints. Soon enough, JavaScript itself will have type hints. So if the language itself, JavaScript, is moving towards the ability to provide type hints to the code itself, then it would be foolish to jump in to a style of code that wouldn't be future-proof. Like, all of the code that I'm writing in JavaScript right now is effectively future-proof. I mean, in the future I might have to make some changes depending on how the language itself changes, but the ECMAScript Council is really, really, really set on maintaining a significant amount of backwards compatibility. There are some things that they've removed, I can't remember what they are, and they've improved some things, but these are trivial in terms of maintenance cost compared to, oh crap, I have to rewrite all of my code again. A lot of these, I don't want to say fad languages because that's kind of dismissive. I'm going to say, I'll just use soup of the day again. A lot of these soup of the day languages, they promise you everything, but it's building a house on sand. Because, or it's not even building a house on sand, it's building a house on concrete with the almost inevitable promise that you're just going to have to demolish the house and rebuild it later. The number of frameworks I've seen that have come into fashion and then out of fashion based on core language features or demands. Yeah, too many. I've seen a lot of Ruby on Rails developers. No hate on them or anything like that. It's just I saw the popularity of Ruby on Rails and I saw the popularity of PHP. I saw the popularity of Perl at one time, quite a long time ago. And they're all, I don't want to say great languages because I don't really think they are. But I've seen their popularity and I've seen their failing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick to the thing that is nearly immovable, that is nearly indestructible. When I was writing systems code, I worked almost primarily in C. C is unwavering, it's unshakable. The code that I wrote then is still good now, still compiles, still works fine. And JavaScript code I wrote literally before the async and await patterns were even a thing, still works. So I don't believe that in the future I'll be able to say the same or similar things about TypeScript, really. But I don't know. This is conjecture, and I don't want to hypothesize. My gut refuses to allow me to jump on board something that will just lead to catastrophe down the line. Alright, so the rant aside, let's go ahead and create some UI classes. So static content, HTML, JavaScript, classes, new security. So we're going to have a request loader class. This is another thing a lot of people might not be familiar with. Um, JavaScript has support for classes, and it always has. You were always able to create constructors. You were always able to have objects that contained functions. The only thing it didn't have was the class keyword, which it still kind of doesn't. It has the class keyword, but it's syntactical sugar is the terminology that they utilize to describe it. It's really creating on the underneath or under the hood. It's creating an object, but by using the class keyword, we can use familiar design patterns so that we can write what look like classes but are really just JavaScript objects under the hood. Okay. So stored request loader. By doing that, we can use a constructor. And export dot stored request loader. I think that's how it's done. Let me see. Oh, export. Yeah, that's how we do it. Duh. Yeah, okay. I've been in server-side code all day, and these things get fuzzy in my brain. And I'll rename this. Something important to understand about these is that you can never make the constructor asynchronous. The constructor function is always, it's always going to be synchronous. Okay, so what we're going to need to do now is we're going to need to make a post request. And to do that, let's import the custom utils here as well. You don't have to worry about loading things multiple times. The browser will automatically only load a request once for a module. Something I had concern about when I was first learning this, but it'll only ever make the request once. Alright, give me a second. I'm going to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Got a bite to eat too. I was a bit hungry. Alright, so load requests. Move some stuff around. So what I need to do now is not this. What I need to do now is create a post receiver. Should I name it security request log? Get requests for fuzzer. Because request log is a generic term, and I don't want it to be too generic in case I have conflict in the future. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Now we have to look in here. So how did I do this? Okay. Oh, back over here. Actually, we're not gonna add here. This is for something else. So we'll just copy this one. Get rid of this. So plugin graph. What did we name it? post request log. Okay, so we'll need to change this to this. Let's change this to post request log. So this should immediately give us access to the post request log, which is what we need. Okay, I think everything. So let me look at. So we should have a post example here somewhere. Custom utils dot post data. There we go. Post that. Go back over to here. Get the endpoint. And then we're just going to send empty data. Let's get rid of the alert and let's move these over. All right. Restart the proxy. And then let's refresh this. Ooh, it crashed. Cannot read properties of post request log. So let's that should be present. Oh, you know what? Because it's a map, I have to iterate it. Okay, hold on. I think I can just do 4 each on it. That's going to be value key map. that should work. Try it again. No, that did not work. Can I read properties of undefined? That should be absolutely fine. This is the plugin. The plugin has the post request log in it. It is a map. Let me just check something. So plugin ref isn't present? How in the world is that possible? Okay. So the initializer should be setting it, if I'm correct. So init is way up here. Yeah, the plugin ref is being set. Oh, I see. I can't. Yeah, okay. So the problem is fairly simple. I'm seeing it now. Because I'm utilizing the method itself, I don't think I can just access... Yeah, I think I have to access the plugin ref as plugin ref. That's why I globalized it. I disdain, or I have disdain for global variables, but in this case it's necessary. So we're going to do that. That should work. Now we pray. Alright. Okay, cool. So we're getting data back now. So what I can do now is I can go over here, run it, and then let's refresh. So there we go. We have data in here, and you can see the hash data, and you can see the parsed JSON as string. You can see it as parsed JSON. Yeah, works great. Fantastic. Very happy. So now I'll move this into this. These are kind of hacky because they're internal tools. I don't really care. No. Where's the post request? Is there an error? Heh. Oh, I didn't save the file. Yep, still loads data. Very good. Let's just refresh it over here and make sure things come out appropriately. Yep. Looks good. So because I'm working on this right now, I'll probably just rename this to fuzz or post fuzz tools or something. I just have security tools as a placeholder. What security tools will be in the future is probably just going to be a bunch of links. All right. Yeah. So I'll just copy this, dump it in here, and usually post fuzzer UI. Just rename everything. I'll add comments here in a little bit. I'm just making sure everything works. So we'll have draw here. Okay, so now I need to make a container. So in the main container, I'll do it through jQuery, why not? Sounds fine. Let's create a new div, and let's append it to the main container. Should probably rename that to capital post, but who cares? So create a new one of these. This is going to draw the user interface for the fuzzer, and it's going to use the post data we retrieved previously to do so. And it was post fuzz data, right? That's the name of it. Oh, post request data. Oh, won't do this. So the data is returned HB post data post request log. Wait, what was it? Post request data post request log. Oh my god, is yeah, I'll get rid of that. I'm not a big Star Wars guy. I'm not a big anything guy. A lot of those things seem childish. And I am a fan of being childish. But not like that. Okay, so let's just dump the URLs here. Hmm. Hmm. Oh. Oh, it's here. Okay. It was right in front of my face. So these are the URLs from the map. So now we can iterate. One second, checking something. So this method is going to draw individual fuzz request entries to the page. So URL equals, actually let's do this. Just for code clarity. So this will be entries tr. IES. And then we'll have another one. And tree for single entry. This will spin a bunch of these. The reason we want this is because we want URLs to be in their own individual sections. So this can draw the section header, and then this can draw all the entries below it. Compartmentalization. That's the name of the game. Oh, you saw. Oh. We need to pass in the container too. That's important. We're not adding any classes yet. We're not doing any painting. We're not going to do any CSS until everything is displayed. You want to do that because you should build the house before you paint it. That's my firm belief. Okay, so URL section div. So append the section div. Hold on one second. This is comment search random. Yeah, there we go. I have just a random string generator for generating IDs. Make this a template and ID equals. I do this because it makes it much easier if I have to reference specific IDs, like if I want to hide everything except an ID. This should be obvious if you do any web development. Well, you can design based on indexing. It's, to me, smarter to design based on IDs. Like using jQuery, you can get the element after this one or n past that element or whatever, but I just use IDs. Okay, so we appended this section div. So let's create a template. What is it gonna look like? So we'll just do make a span here. Oh, let ID equals URL span. We'll do name equals URL span. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. I had to say something to somebody. Damn dot end section template. Okay. So I think it's URL. Oh, we got a URL section ID. And then, how do we do this? I think it's name. Do I put in a quote? I think I do put in a quote. Or do I not? I don't remember. We'll do it without. Alright, let's see how this works. That worked. Perfect. Good. You want to use a custom property here in your templates. You don't want to use ID. IDs are unique. So you don't want to have multiple IDs with the same name in your page because query selectors operate off of IDs. So in here, jQuery, we're using the hash to get the ID of the section, and then underneath that, anything with the name URL span is going to be returned as the URL span. This is just an easy way to kind of subtemplatize, whatever that is. Also, you always want to create text nodes. Text nodes can contain just about any character you want without running into cross-site scripting issues. So if the URL had, let's say the URL is when we refresh this, no cross-site scripting. It'll just be a text node. Alright, so now we need to create a div. Name equals JSON payload. I'm adding a div because it's a... Is it a block element? I think that's a term for it, but it'll basically put it on its own line. It's not an inline element. Alright. JSON payload div equals before you do any of this, you always have to append your template to the container first, or it won't be present in the DOM and you won't be able to select it. So let's go back to 1995 and add a horizontal rule here. That way each of the different sections will display. This we're not going to use yet. This is just going to be the container. Or, hold on, actually, let's do fuzz entry container. Yeah, okay, there we go. I'm going to navigate around things here a little bit. Okay. So there we go. Now we have two different things that are being posted to. Very cool. So let me just display the entries. Yeah, here you can see the requests. Okay, so we're just going to iterate them and then draw. Okay, so now we gotta submit here. I'm coloring these all as asynchronous functions because I'm probably going to be doing post things from here. Like if I want to create the fuzz entry, if I want to check the database on the back end to see if this has already been fuzzed a certain number of times or whatever, I'm going to have to make a post request, and as such, it's better to just color them as asynchronous. If you don't know what function coloring is, you can just look it up. And just basically, it's if it's a yellow function or a blue function, or in this case, asynchronous or synchronous. So the container is going to be this. We'll pass this in too. Probably won't need it, but we'll pass it in. And that should be enough. I need to scratch my back. I'm itchy. I'll be right back. Okay. There are few tools as valuable as a back scratcher. That's my professional opinion. Okay, create. Oop. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a look at what an entry actually looks like. So entry as string, we can just dump that. Let's add a space underneath it. This is just gonna chuck a bunch of JavaScript at the string, or at the browser. It's gonna be very ugly. Let's refresh and look at the ugly. Look at the ugly. Okay, so in here, I'm going to I'll have a couple of checkboxes. Oh, name equals. I'm gonna have to use a unique name here, I think, because I'm gonna use label for. I can just use a table. I'm gonna do it quick and dirty. Again, internal tool. That's keys. Was values. And then we'll do fuzz corruption. You know, I don't need to do fuzz corruption. Like what I would do is I'd corrupt the JSON and then I would send it to the server and see how the server responds. But I know exactly how the server is going to respond. If this was a security tool for testing generally, then yeah, corrupting the values would be reasonable. But since it's my server and I know exactly how it's going to respond, it would just be senseless to do that. Let's make a table. Okay, let's look at it again. Hey, come on. Oh, I'm not appending the template. Hey. Table TD input. Okay, checkbox. Yeah, that's good. That's good. What's... Hey. What the hell is going on here? Let's check. Oh. Oh. Gotta be like that. Should be working. Let me just kill the server and see again. See if that works. Heh. Template. Let's try moo. That should be working. Okay. Something weird. Why in the world wouldn't that work? The reason it should work is because the only way that JSON data is getting in there is from here. I have the cache disabled. Disable cache, yeah. Okay, that is incredibly weird. Append. Oh, I see. I'm a stupid idiot. Okay, so we'll do this. What was happening was the text was just overwriting it. Oh, that's a dumb issue. So it'll be name star equals JSON data. Now it should work. There we go. I gotta get rid of the moo. Can't have no moos around here. This is a cow-free town. Fuzz keys, fuzz values. This is going to be always checked by default. Fuzz keys, not checked. Okay, now we'll add another input. Let's do 100. We'll add that below, since we're putting this in a table. It should actually be its own table. That way you can move it around in the future. Never underestimate the value of HTML tables. People will tell you to use FlexGrid, and they'll tell you to use all sorts of flex components. They're not wrong. But in terms of development speed, a table is often just as good. You don't have to worry about managing your CSS. Okay, so instead of one space at the end, let's add 2 spaces. Again, quick and dirty. Ideally, in the future, I'll have some CSS and I can add padding and stuff, but we're just doing this quick and dirty. Okay, and so now we need a start button. Okay. Oop. Value is going to be start fuzzing, forgot. So now we can do this. We're going to get the start fuzz button. which is a quick and dirty way to pass parameters to an on-click event. I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but that's the way I do it. Fuzz keys, fuzz values. What we're doing here is we're gathering the components from the page. So fuzz values checkbox. Okay, let's pass these through. You don't really have to do this here. You can just put the variables directly without assigning them. But I like assigning them. It gives me flexibility in the future if I want to change things. I always think about future you. I don't do that enough. I do that in terms of code. I don't do that in terms of things like my finances, which I really should. I am pushing it. Not in the good way. Hold on, let me check something. Alright, let's make sure this is moving correctly. Yep, we're moving correctly. Wait, what was that twice? It should move once. Oh, because we need to create a new container. Duh. Okay, now we should just move once. Moo! Yay! Okay, good. All right, now that we got that working, I think that's where I'm gonna leave off for today. I'll come back tomorrow and I'll continue work on this. It's 3 o'clock in the morning already. I gotta get some sleep. But yeah, overall pretty productive day. Got a lot done. That's every day. Every day I go to sleep, I say, I got a lot done. That's pretty good. That's a good feeling. Although I am somewhat exhausted. Alright, so what we're going to do tomorrow is this is going to post these values along with the entry data to a post receiver within the proxy. And that post receiver will start a fuzzer on the back end. Now I already have a fuzzer built, so it shouldn't, I shouldn't have to write an entire fuzzer on stream, but I'm gonna have to refamiliarize myself with the semantics of using that fuzzer. It's a real simple fetch fuzzer, so it's designed specifically for post requests. It shouldn't cause me much issue. Okay. Nice talking to literally nobody. All the 0 people watching the stream. Hello. How is nobody doing? It was fun talking to myself for 2 or 3 hours, however long it's been. But I'm going to bed. I'll catch all of nobody tomorrow. Goodbye.